Good evening, everybody. It is a lovely Sunday night here at One Hub Racing. This is season 14, sponsored by Next Level Racing, and welcome to the second edition of the monthly talk show, where this time we're going to be talking through all the races from Australia, Bahrain, China, and Azerbaijan. I am Jess, your usual host for the talk shows. I have a co-host with me, which is usually a commentator. This week it's no different, but this time I'm joined by one of our reserve commentators, Luke. Hello, Luke.
Hello, Jess. Hello, everyone. Glad to be joining you all to talk about what has been a very interesting first four races in all the tiers at One Hub.
Yep, new game, new surroundings, and a lot of chance for people to find their feet as well. But first of all, let's just talk about it in general then. What do you think of the standings overall in One Hub for the first four tiers? Because for some of these people, they've put on some great performances and some great battles too.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be in each tier a few drivers that seem to be standing out constantly. I think we even saw that with the pre-season race. A lot of the favourites from earlier on in the season are doing well. Just go through like a couple in each tier, like Zeppa Doodle, he's won 2 races now. Odems has won 2 in Prestige. Leon, he's won 3 out of 4 now. I know it makes sense to go in a normal order, but why bother doing things that make sense? And White Fountain as well in Precision, he's won 3 out of 4. So you've had drivers who have had good starts to the season, but Australia and Baku especially aren't genuinely the most representative of what tracks are like, and there's still 17 races to go. Anything could happen.
Yeah, it is a long season. Obviously, last season we were both commentating on it. It was a short season, obviously, because of the new game. This time, they got more chance to show their mettle, basically. So what's going to happen? There's no point going through all the 4 races in all the 4 tiers like we did in the pre-season, because that would take pretty much 3 hours, because we went through all 4 races in the pre-season. That took an hour and a half, so that would probably take 3 or 4 hours. So we're just going to go through each tier in general, talk about any stand-up moments, also any drivers that have done well, like we've mentioned, and talk about anyone that's had any problems as well. So we'll just talk about those. So we'll start as we mean to go on. We'll do it the same order as we did last talk show, and we will talk about the podium first. And I think we've got a few standout drivers, but the standout driver, the one who is currently leading the championship after the first 4 rounds, pending stewards' inquiries, is Aaron. Obviously, Aaron, he's done a very good pre-season race, so he was one to watch, and he didn't let the pressure go to him. And so far, he's won one race. He's got. Basically, he's been in the podium for all the 4 races so far this season, so he is definitely a threat to this championship.
Yeah, that's the type of consistency you're going to need if you want to win the championship. He was a lot of people's favourites for the podium tier at the start of the season before the pre-season race at Spa showed how good he was there. And as you mentioned, Jess, he's been a mainstay on the podium. I did like his tactical move last night at Baku, taking advantage of the slipstream, just avoiding overtaking Foggy on the penultimate lap to make sure he had the slipstream on the final lap to take that win and gain the 3 extra points, and that could be all important by the end of the season.
And he started 10th as well on the grid. It just shows he's a force to be reckoned with, to be honest. So and it was like, I think it was 2 attempts in the end, so pretty impressive for him as well. So it's not going to be plain sailing for him, really, as he's been, I think, I'm just going to look at his other performances from the other races, not just Azerbaijan. So let me just go backwards since we just talked about Azerbaijan. So China, he won from starting 2nd. Bahrain, he came 3rd after starting 4th. Australia, he won after starting... he came 2nd after starting 4th. So no matter what, Luke, he's gained position. He hasn't lost positions.
Yeah, and interestingly, he's not always gone for the same strategy as some of the other drivers. I know in Australia, he tried to make a 2-stop work, and he did take 2nd position. Maybe if he'd have had a few more laps, he'd have taken the win. But I think him gaining places in the race, we know One Hub and the qualifying night system always tends to lead to extremely close grids across all 4 tiers. But I just think you see them drivers who've just got that extra bit more talent, maybe had a bit more time to practice. They tend to move up throughout the races, and especially last night, didn't have the greatest of qualifyings. Azerbaijan, not the easiest track to overtake on.
No.
Didn't let it affect him. Bit of luck staying out of some of the carnage in a couple of the races, but sometimes you make your own luck, and yeah, I think he's going to be tough to beat at the end of the season.
He is going to be tough, and a closer man to watch out for to challenge Aaron for the title is Zeppel, however you say his name, but he is another favourite. He is not as consistent as Aaron, which is why he's second, but he is the only person in this tier to get 2 wins, so he's closed the gap to 11 points, so his win in Australia was definitely dominant, and in Azerbaijan on Friday, he just looked the class of the field. He was dominant there as well. So I'm also gonna check where he started as well. I think he did start pole, or in Australia he started 7th, and in Azerbaijan he started pole. So I think Azerbaijan was more dominant, but he is starting to come back to form and show what he's really made of on this game.
Yeah, again, avoided the carnage last night. One of the races I have commentated on this season was the Melbourne podium tier race, and he just managed his tyres so well. He only did 1 stop. Aaron, we've already mentioned, tried something different on the 2 stop. Didn't really panic at any point of the race, just kept the driving smooth, because he'll have known that the gap was coming down, especially in the final few laps. Once Aaron cleared the traffic, just kept his head cool, managed to win his home race, which I'm sure is an ideal start to the season. But I think China especially, he didn't do well in qualifying, was way down at the back of the grid, but managed to just pick up a couple of points in the end. But he'll be wanting to avoid too many races like that, because then you might just see Aaron and possibly a few of the others catch up and overtake.
Yep, and it just shows consistency is key. So obviously China, he didn't have a good race, and Bahrain, he got 4th. So I think China was, the only blip in his performance, so we will watch out for him. And the overtakes he made was pretty good as well, to overtake for the lead as well, apart from Azerbaijan, where he absolutely dominated. So yeah, and if he's not careful, and if he doesn't get that good results in the future, if he doesn't keep consistent like Aaron, he's going to have the likes of Ivan as well in the Haas, who's also done very well. He got 12 points in Melbourne, podium in Bahrain, and 6 points in China and Azerbaijan. He got 8th, so I think, again, for him, I think Azerbaijan wasn't the cleanest races for him, but he finished, and that was very important around this track. If you finish around Baku and Monaco especially, you're probably more than likely to get points.
Yeah, I think Baku, in my personal opinion, is the most difficult track on the game, just to get your car to the end of the race. We think of Monaco when we think of street circuits, but you absolutely pile the downforce on at Monaco. You can't afford to do that at Baku with that long straight. So the cars are a lot more difficult to handle, and especially the castle section, where I'm sure every single person who is listed has played an F1 game, tried to make it through the castle section, lap after lap after lap. You just go slightly faster, a bit more wide on one lap, and bang, you're in the wall, out of the race. So I think everyone who finished last night will be happy with how they've done. I know he'll have wanted to finish higher up the field than 8th place, but because of damage and various other things, he ended up having to make 5 pit stops as he was trying to get that fastest lap as well at different points. So I think that just shows, I think last night the pit crews definitely earned their money across all the various tiers, especially in precision, but we'll go over that in a bit. Yeah,
we'll go through that in a minute, because I think there was so much that happened in that race. But anyway, and another person to watch out for, I think, this season, Gaza as well. Hasn't been in the podium as much, but he has been consistent. He's got 2 8 points in a row in Bahrain and Australia. He got 12 points in China, and I think he didn't do too bad in Azerbaijan either. I think he's one of those drivers who I've spoken to after his races for making a very great comeback. He's another person like Aaron who always gains places off the start.
Yeah, it's been a very Gazza-man start to the season. I think the last 2 seasons on F1 2018, he was 6th or 5th in both, I believe.
Yeah.
He's always been up there. It's just shows the consistency. He might not have the same pace over one lap as Aaron, Zeppedoodle, Ivan, like Foggy as well, because he's been a bit up and down, but he's constantly getting towards the end of races, and just maybe there'll be other chances this season where he can take a victory, because I'm sure if he just keeps this consistency up, he's managed to keep it clean in a few of the races, penalty-wise, where some of the others haven't as well. Australia especially, that's an extremely difficult track to avoid getting penalties on, and at some points in the season that could just make the difference between him finishing off the podium and perhaps getting a first win of the season.
I think China Stroke to me is one of the podium races where I think a lot of people improved. I think it was close to being race of the week for the Chinese Grand Prix, but Pinnacle just pipped it. But I think Gather started 12th and finished 6th, and I know he may have wanted higher, but he looks. I was speaking to him. He looked so delighted after the race, saying, "Hey, I finished P6, another comeback race for him." So, yeah, I think the most important thing is you gotta have fun, really. Even if you qualify low, if you have some fun, have some good battles, then that's an achievement in itself, really. And I think that's what Gather is thinking of, whilst the other guys fight it out for the title.
Yeah, just focusing on your own race is so important at times. Knowing which battles to fight and which ones to leave alone and perhaps try for another day. I do agree with what you said. If you're not fighting for the race win, it can still be fun, especially now that One Hub have decided to add a fastest lap point for those who are outside the top 10 as well, because that just creates an extra element in the final few laps and just gives drivers who might have had a bad start to the race, been involved in an incident for whatever reason, just carry on till the end, because you never know what could happen, especially a race like last night Baku where there's so many retirements.
Yeah, so many retirements there. It's just, well done to people who finished that, but well done to Gaza for keeping out of trouble. So great job for him. And I think we couldn't mention, I think Iceman was involved in quite a few battles over the last few races as well. He didn't finish in Bahrain, which was a bit disappointing. No, he didn't get any points in Bahrain. I'm not sure if he finished or not, but other races he scored good points and kept consistent there. But I wonder, do you think he would have been up there if he got in the points in Bahrain, do you think?
Yeah, he'd definitely be up there fighting, I think, with those at the top. I remember I think after the first race of the season, Zeppa did a good job to win, but I think he owed Iceman a huge pat on the back for that, because it was Iceman who was holding up Aaron and defending lap after lap after lap on much older tyres, which is especially difficult to do nowadays when you've got the DRS system.
Yeah.
He didn't get any points in Bahrain. It's a 21 race season. I'd be very surprised if there's a driver out there who will end up finishing all 21 races. Things happen. Real life might get in the way. There might have to be a race that they'll miss. So just keep on plugging away, and you never know what might happen. And
if you get fastest lap as well, that can make a huge difference, and you could get a extra point. And I think that's played quite a lot into the hands of the podium tier as well. If they were right behind and want to get fastest lap, they just pit to the end. And we seen quite a lot of that. And I think I wasn't surprised to see quite a few people do that in the Azerbaijan race, in particular if they were still in a chance of a points anyway, due to so many retirements.
Yeah, the first lap in podium in Azerbaijan was probably, I think, what most people imagined every first lapper would be at Azerbaijan after they saw the track layout. I think Azamata, he went for a very optimistic overtaking manoeuvre into turn 2 on the first lap. That damaged a few cars, and then obviously cars are driving around with front wing damage trying to get through the castle section. Again, like, more carnage ensued. So I think there was a lot of drivers last night who'd had bad starts to the race and were able to go for that extra fastest lap point. And at the end of the day, that's 21 extra points that are up for offer, so it's better than a second position at the end of the season.
Exactly. Even I think for most people, the aim is to survive in street circuits like Baku and Monaco, I think. So as long as you survive there, that is good. And I think the final driver we will talk about briefly before we talk about any other moments we've had in any of the podium races was Foggy. I think the main reason why we're going to talk about Foggy is I think he's a bit of an anomaly really, as he did not finish in Australia, but he forgot about Australia and he went on to win in Bahrain. So I'm guessing he just doesn't want to forget. He wants to forget his previous mistakes and he wants to build on it, and that's exactly what he done in Bahrain. A great result for him.
Yeah, it seems to be a feast or famine at the moment with Foggy, especially if you even bring his pre-season race into proceedings, where he finished on the podium there. He's not the most experienced of league racers, especially not as much as some of the other guys in this podium tier, so perhaps that's why he hasn't got the same level of consistency, but there's no doubt that the pace is there. He's shown some good racecraft in races, again, just keeping out of trouble and being there in the end. If I was him, I'd have tried to be a bit cheeky last night, and I'd have tried to make sure that Aaron passed me before we got onto the long straight. Just run wide slightly at one of the corners and ensure you get that slipstream. But I think that's another thing that comes down to experience. Aaron was very clever there in what he was doing, and I don't think Foggy can complain too much with third place. I'm sure he'll be looking forward to the rest of the season, and if he can just iron out that odd mistake, especially what ended up costing him in Australia, he can get himself right up there at the end of the season. I
think he'll be very happy. I think all the races he finished, he's been on the podium, so I'm sure he wants to continue that. So I think there's been some awesome moments and some problematic moments. I think we've seen in some of the races where Liam may have caused some trouble, but and particularly in China, but we've seen in Azerbaijan and Australia where he was right up there. He got a 5th in Australia and he got a 4th in Azerbaijan. So again, he's not that consistent, but on a good day, he tried to stay out of trouble there.
Yeah, he did pretty well, I found, in Azerbaijan, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Just another one of the drivers just keeping out of trouble, managed to avoid all them first lap incidents. And I think that's a lot of the challenge around a street circuit, is just making sure you get that first lap nice and clean, and then try and use that as a platform to build on. He's going to have some decent results this season. I mean, at Spa for the pre-season race, he was right up there in qualifying. He just unfortunately got it wrong
into turn one.
So I know he was kicking himself with that, but 5th place in Australia, in the points as well in Bahrain. It's only China really which has let him down so far. So I'd say I can't see him being a consistent challenger for wins, but if he gets it right on his day, he'll be up there, and he'll be there to take advantage if there's any incidents involving the drivers out at the front of the field. Definitely.
I agree with that, and hopefully you can get a good Spain result as well, because that will be amazing to see. Now, was there any other moments that we might have missed in podium that got a lot of talking? Because I did see quite a few incidents in the castle section in Azerbaijan, and also in turn 11, 12 in Australia, where it caused a little bit of issues. Were there any other moments as well?
They were the two that I think really stood out for me. Turn 11 and 12 became a car park.
Yeah.
For podium tier drivers in Australia. I think it was Eva Hannon. I know he qualified on pole position, I believe, and then just lost it out of that chicane. And there were so many others who got it wrong, not just in podium. I'd say it was like Prestige probably the only one where we didn't see multiple drivers do that. It's just one of the things they have to watch out for. I'm sure they'll be kicking themselves because it won't be the first time that they've done it. I know myself many times. I'm sure somewhere I've got a video on my phone of me on F1 2010 trying to hold a drift around turn 11 and 12 and it going badly wrong. But Baku as well, the castle section, a lot of drivers ending up with damage. I think Peter Parker had to do have you ever seen the Austin Powers where he's trying to reverse in and out of that corridor?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Peter Parker got it wrong at the castle section and didn't retire, but had to do at least, I think, a 9-point turn to try and get out of it. But all credit to him. He carried on. Just I think fortune favours the brave sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And I just wonder how many. I'm just going to check how many pit stops he made. Let me just see. Where is he? Pete Parker. He made 3 pit stops, so not as much as Ivan, who did 5. So he kept going, and even though he was a lap down, he definitely showed his mettle, and I think he was the last person to get a point as well. Everyone else like DNF, so he was very lucky to finish there. So all in all, I would say a good showing for some of the drivers in podium. I would say watch out for Aaron, watch out for Zeppadoodle. Those two, that could be a good title fight. And also, we're not counting out, Ivan and Gaza as well, and potentially Foggy if he gets more consistent.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much summed it up very well there. Riley, he's had a few good moments in races, got on the podium in China, but again, not really shown that level of consistency. And SD Mats, he was second on the grid last night. He'll have seen his teammate win the race, so he'll have been disappointed not to get any points. So as well as them battling for the championship, I think there's a few in podium who feel like they've got a point to prove, and next race, next time out in Spain being a much kinder track to the drivers than Azerbaijan, I'm sure it'll be a good one.
Yeah, well, I think it will be a good one, so I'm looking forward to that. So if you want to see the standings, I put it on your screen right now. The standings up to China. Like I said, it won't be updated from Azerbaijan until the stewards have done their little investigations, which will be, usually it gets updated on Thursday, Friday, so make sure you check that out then. And also, just a quick promotion on driver of the day from Friday night. Zeppa is in the poll for driver of the day for the podium tier, as well as Liam as well. So don't forget to vote for those on Twitter. Find the tweet and vote for your favourite driver. It's going to be a tough one, but make sure you do vote for that. So podium out the way. Now we're going to go on to precision, which is, I think, one of those tiers where it's had a lot of action, good or bad. I think I've seen a precision chat every race, and it's been absolute, I think, mayhem, either good or bad. So there was a lot to talk about, in particular in the opening race as well, where they've got a lot of penalties. But I think we wouldn't talk about position tier if we wouldn't talk about White Fountain. I think he's been the most consistent out of everyone, I think, in the whole league, not just in position. He got 3 wins out of 4, and the only win he didn't get was in China, where he got 11th place. And it seems to me that Red Bull are doing very well in position as well. So I do believe he was in podium last year, so he's making a name for himself in position, showing what the other drivers are made of.
Yeah, basically the story for precision tier has been, if it's dry across the majority of the race, White Fountain will win. I know last night was very interesting weather, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later for the precision tier, but he's been so good. Like a standout moment for me was Australia. He got that 5-second penalty. I believe it was for speeding in the pit lane. Didn't let it bother him, and just gradually pulled out a gap ahead of Chris to end up taking the victory. Did very well in Bahrain from pole position. China, bit of an outlier, but still managed to get in the points, so he won't be complaining too much.
No.
And last night, he got some time penalties for corner cutting, and I know Owen and Odem's had a lot to say about that. Pretty much the only way that's getting decided is some roast battle or rat battle, or just get them in a ring, and we'll get that sorted out before the next race. But he got the strategy bang on last night. I think a few of the other drivers in precision saw the drops of rain, panicked, put on the intermediate tyres. He just kept it nice and cool, and I think the drivers you're seeing at the top just show a bit more maybe racing intelligence.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better phrase for it, but I think that's definitely what helped White Fountain last night, and he's got 3 wins out of 4, and the question's going to be, can anyone stop him running away with this now?
I think that one person that White Fountain reminds me of was I think Blizzard from Prestige, where he won quite a few races in a row last season as well. But this time White Fountain is in position, so I think it's going to be one. If anyone doesn't stop him, it's going to. I think I'm probably going to predict Precision is going to be probably going to be the first tier to decide their title. I know it's too early to call it, but if this is the way that it's going to go, it's probably going to be that. So, and the person finished in second place in Azerbaijan. I'll talk about in a minute because he did so well to get where he is. But I'm going to talk about Chris. I think that's how you say his gamer tag, who it was in second in the standings after China. The only blip in results was he DNF'd in Azerbaijan, which was a bit of a shame. I didn't quite see what happened there. I think he must have got caught out in the rain, but other results, he finished second in Australia, he came third in Bahrain, and he won in China. So another consistent driver, which is really going to help him, but Azerbaijan is really going to hurt him, I think.
Yeah, Chris, he made his return to One Hub. He's a former champion. He returned during season 13, the short one we had on F1 2018, and he was definitely quick last time out in the Precision tier. He just showed a bit of inconsistency, perhaps because he wasn't used to the game and getting back used to league racing. He's definitely been quick. I feel like the championship standings after China show that he's only 3 points behind White Fountain. That gap obviously would have grown hugely after he crashed out in the wet last night, and it was his crash in a way helped White Fountain because a lot of the other guys who were at the front of the field pitted for intermediates under the VSC. Can't blame them for doing that. We've seen in the Russian Grand Prix last weekend how if you're pitting under VSC, it can be a great strategic call. Again, he doesn't need to worry too much about last night. Just forget it, move on. Azerbaijan, very unique circuit. Get his head down for the Spanish Grand Prix, and him and Lukey do look like a good team combination. I know they had a battle in Melbourne, which if I imagine Ferrari team principals are used to seeing their teammates have a bit of closeness on track, and definitely a few moments that I can't imagine Lukey was too pleased about how hard him and Chris were battling. But they could be a team to watch throughout this season. Themselves and Red Bull, I think, will be the main two teams for the Precision Constructors.
I agree. Red Bull and Ferrari, I think after China, Lukey finished is third in the stands for Ferrari as well. So Red Bull, I think, would have closed the gap with White Fountain, I think, with all his points. So, yeah, I think, I know Spain is a kind of track, so I know Chris, if it's dry, I think he's going to cope better, I think. So it's not over for Chris, and again, he just needs to forget about last night and just move on. So another driver to talk about is there's no way we can't talk about him. Was Lukey. He got 2 podiums in a row in Bahrain and China, which was good to see. And I believe he DNF'd in Australia, which was really sad to see. And after he was doing so well as well, the three races he's done, he scored consistently apart from Australia. So another one to watch, do you think?
Yeah, him and Chris were teammates, I think, last season, so they do have a good relationship between them. Azerbaijan, he missed, I've mentioned earlier. Most drivers will probably miss a race or two over the season. Things crop up. There may be some connection issues. I think it was Lawrence, he suffered with some connection issues last night, and that affected him. Lukey, he'll be annoyed at himself for Australia. He's got some good pace, but the 4 tracks we've had so far, I think, do give a good overview of a lot of the circuits in F1. Australia and Baku are both street circuits, but they're extremely different with the way they are laid out. Bahrain, you've got a lot of fast-flowing corners, and China as well. You've got the fast middle sector and the corner-wise, and then you've got the extremely long back straight at the Shanghai International Circuit in the final sector. So the first 4 races do give a good overview, I feel, of who's going to be ones to watch throughout the season, but there are a few unique circuits that we're going to go to. Of course, Monaco, basically, as Nelson Piquet once described it, it's a bit like riding a bicycle around your bedroom. And then later on in the season, you've got Monza, which is just a pure speed fest. So certain drivers are going to have tracks where they're going to be better than the others, but Lukey he's looked good in all 3 races that he's taken part now, apart from, of course, ignoring the retirement in Australia. But he's definitely going to get a few victories this season, and maybe if he keeps challenging Chris, there's going to be some interesting conversations between the two of them if they both end up fighting for this Drivers' Championship.
I wonder if there'll be any cheeky team orders going, like real life in the Russia Grand Prix. Not gonna say anything more. But I don't think there will be, because obviously they're two very good friends. That's why they're teammates. So, yeah, but another driver to talk about, Sophie as well. I would say Sophie had a very good start to the season. She finished third, and she got 12 points in China, but she only got 1 point in Bahrain. She didn't do too well in Azerbaijan either, so I think she got caught up in a lot of instances too. So I'm not sure if she's returning to 1UP after what happened last night, but if she does continue racing, what do you think would help her a little bit to keep the consistency up and get back to where she was in Australia?
Yeah, she did do very well in Australia, getting a 3rd place, but I think a tiny bit of her will be disappointed with that 3rd place in Australia, because she had a chance to take the lead after the pit stop. She did a fantastic undercut in the first stages of the race. She managed to undercut Vitno, who was the pole sitter, nearly got past White Fountain. She just seemed to struggle a bit on the hard tyres in that race. Bahrain didn't go to plan, but she did well in China. Being a wet race, it's a bit more of an outlier in the precision tier. And last night, finishing 7th in Azerbaijan. I hope she returns, because she has shown good potential. Maybe just a bit of work on race strategy, and
Yeah.
I think she backed out a bit on one of the moves on White Fountain in Australia. She had the inside line. She was alongside. White Fountain, all credit to him, did do well to hang it off around the outside, but I think a few of the others may have been a bit more forceful. And as long as you keep it fair and don't deliberately ram someone off the track, sometimes you just got to have that bit more aggressiveness while you're going for the overtaking manoeuvre, and that can be the difference between getting a victory and getting on the podium.
So if you're watching, and hopefully you do come back, because obviously it'll be great to see what you can really do as well. And Adriel, after China, I think that's how you say Adriel, or how you say, 5th place in the standings. Again, another consistent points finisher in Australia and Bahrain.
He did a fantastic job in the first race of the season, gained, was it 15 positions from 19th on the grid for 4th? That just shows how, starting outside the top 10, of course, you get free tyre choice, as I'm sure we all know, for the race. And he took full advantage of that to get good track position in the early stages, as he passed those who started on the soft tyres once they pitted, and they found it pretty difficult to overtake him in some instances. Again, it's just keeping that consistency up. Like, I think you need to practice, obviously, as much as possible, because there are some of these drivers who religiously race in other leagues as well, so they're constantly on the game, getting all the setups and strategies bang on. He's definitely got some pace, but I think it's going to be, I can't imagine him being up there as a consistent enough for a championship challenge, perhaps a bit like some of the others we mentioned in podium, a bit like Liam. On his day, he's good enough to perhaps sneak onto the podium and maybe get a victory. Just needs to have a few more of his days more often.
Yeah, I can totally agree. And I'm not going to go through the rest of the drivers, but I can't get off position without mentioning one driver who did pretty much, if you can agree, one of the best performances I've seen in position, and that is TK. He finished 2nd in Azerbaijan, which was outstanding, and he only made 2 stops, and he started 12. So he was definitely a dark horse in that race, and he's also up for driver of the day as well. So against White, I need to check who also was up for driver of the day for a position, but he could be one of the favourites to win driver of the day after that performance last night. Absolutely incredible stuff from TK. and could be a dark horse of the championship if he avoids all the carnage like he did on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, TK, he was one of those who pitted onto the intermediate tyres last night when perhaps it just wasn't wet enough for them. Who knows, if he hadn't have done that, maybe he could have took the victory. It was only White Fountain who stayed out. So in a way, White Fountain obviously did one less pit stop and probably spent most of the time on the better tyres than TK. We know he's got pace, he's been around on one hub for a while now. The season, I'd say it's not gone how he would have liked so far. I think barring Azerbaijan, it's probably, I think he's at least doubled his points for the season as long as nothing else happens. Yeah, he had 14 points going into last night. He's going to come out with 32.
Wow.
We don't know if there's any stewards inquiries happening, of course. We'll find out on Tuesday, but it's a good platform on. He'll be happy with how he's done last night in what were extremely difficult conditions. Probably the most difficult they're going to have to face all season on a track like Baku, where it is so tight and where you're just on that borderline where the track is very greasy. Driving around on slick tyres, you lose temperature very easily, and a lot of drivers were locking up, going straight on and spinning. But once you put the intermediate tyres on, I'd say it was only maybe 1 or 2 laps where intermediates were the tyres to be on before it started drying out again. And intermediate tyres on a dry track, you just heat up the tyres and lose grip, start sliding more, and it's a vicious circle.
Yeah, I think I fell victim of the wet track, dry tyre towards the end of one trap. I'm not going to go too much because it's not in this league, but it is hard. And I think I must say, before I move on to the next tier, I think rain has been a common theme for the position tier this season so far. It rained in the pre-season race, it rained in Azerbaijan, and I'm not sure what other tracks it rained, but
I think China definitely was a wet race.
Yeah, so pretty much 2 out of the 4 races this season, and also the pre-season race, so it's 3 races have rained. It might be due to the commentators, or it might be due to the actual drivers, or it might be just due to the actual game itself, but it's just very, 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 what a coincidence, because most of the races I've commentated or I took part in, it's been dry, so I wonder if it's the gods wanted a position tier to rain more than anything else, really, out of all the other tiers. But it made for some quite good races, I must say, in the position this season.
Yeah, last night especially, seeing how all the drivers coped with the different strategies. As you mentioned, that 4 of the 4 season races they've had 2 wet, and the pre-season race as well. Belgium, everyone knows it rains in Belgium. If it's dry, you're surprised. China, you see a few more wet races there at other circuits, and perhaps as well Azerbaijan in the region it's in, known for a bit more weather. They'll be glad they're heading to Spain, where it should be nice and sunny for them. They'll be hoping so, at least. I think if we get a wet race in Monaco, some of the drivers might be starting to complain that it's being put on wet on purpose.
Yeah, I felt quite bad for the position tier last night. They had to suffer from the wet conditions in Azerbaijan. So I wasn't that shocked of the amount of finishes in position. But it wasn't the lowest finishes of the night. So props to them. So well done to all of them. And I think one person to mention, Cam K, had a good result in Azerbaijan. Obviously, he won in pre-season when it was raining. He got P6. He also got P6 in China as well. So unfortunately, he didn't get a good result in Australia, where he DNF'd, and he got P9 in Bahrain. So he must be a wet weather god, I must say.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a bit of a wet weather specialist. Well, the great drivers that we think about in Formula 1, Senna, Schumacher, Hamilton, all known for their talents in the wet. We'll just quickly mention some of the race premium drivers here at One Hub. Joe, quite low down in the standings at the moment, but he was up there in Melbourne before. He was battling with White Fountain before he spun. And I'm interested to see how Joe does, because he was in Precision last season and he was West's main challenger for the title, and it's definitely not gone well for him so far this season. I think he made it towards the end last night. I know he went straight on at one point at the castle section. Luckily for him, he realised he was going to head towards the barrier and bailed out of it, taking full advantage of the runoff area. Did manage to get 8th place last night, which is, I think, his best finish of the season so far. So he'll be looking forward to the next few races because he knows he's got the pace. They've shown it on previous games, but maybe the fact with F1 2019 removing the ballast, we thought a few drivers may struggle a bit more on this game. Maybe it just doesn't suit his driving style as much now that tool has been removed.
Yeah, I think it's helped me more, but for some of these guys, I think it might have downgraded their pace a little bit. But we shall see. We shall see. So, the standings up to China on your screens now, and obviously once it will get updated for Azerbaijan after the stewards have gone to as well. Don't forget you can vote for your driver of the day, same as podium for position there.
Props to everyone who finished the race because I can't finish around Azerbaijan in the dry.
No, I can't.
When there's no cars around me, you just chuck me in any car, a road car around Azerbaijan, and I feel like I'd end up scraping a barrier at some point. Australia, I was impressed with White Fountain. Definitely Sophie, I mentioned how I thought she did well with the strategy, and she managed to keep it clean. And that's what helped her get towards the podium. But I think, as we've already mentioned, they'll all be hoping for some more standard weather because when these guys are practicing, they're going to be doing it the majority of the time in the dry. They'll have all their strategies worked out, what they'll be doing in the dry. You chuck in the rain, all that goes out of the window, and that's why they're usually more exciting races.
Yeah, they're excited for us, but they're not excited. But they probably find it a bit harder for the drivers, I must say. So for some of the tracks, the commentators do hope for the rain. So make sure you do check out position at 7:30 on a Friday night. It's usually commentated by Owen White and Sean. And to be honest, I think those two, I don't know how they do it, commentating on precision after so many good races this season in precision already. So props to them, and I think Odem's joined them in Australia and China as well. So props to them for that. And obviously we've got podium at 6:30 with Brett and Alex as well. And Alex, if you're watching, get better soon. Right, but let's move on to Pinnacle already. And my, what drivers in Pinnacle, I must say. And I think we have to mention quite a few drivers, I think, in Pinnacle, in particularly the top 4 in the standings. But I must say, stand out for me this season so far, it's got to be Leon, another consistent person like White Fountain. He's got 3 wins out of the last 4, and the first time he got P3, but he was involved in a very good battle in Australia anyway, which we're going to mention in a minute. But he is definitely the favourite, and his performance last night in Azerbaijan just goes to show, do not give up, and that is what he's done. And he still went on to win the race just by keeping it out of the wall and not getting as many penalties as the rest of the field.
Yeah, he qualified behind his teammate last night, Ollie, who was leading for quite a large portion of the race. He qualified 3rd, found himself in the lead. Leon used for DRS. It was a great move around the outside onto turn 1. I believe it was the penultimate lap as well last night. So
wow,
leaving it fairly late, taking that victory. Was it Bahrain? I think was it Bahrain? Was he the driver who spun and just managed to keep it out of the wall? And then I think it was a lap or 2 later, Fletcher did the same thing but was not as lucky.
I can't remember to be honest, but I don't know. I think Leon is just one of those people that make a mistake and just forgets about it, and he still gets on and gets a good result anyway. I don't know what happened. I think he seems to be having a lot more form this game than the last game. Maybe because he's in a lower tier and he wants to be involved in more consistent battles. I think him being in a lower tier has definitely helped him a lot this season, and it looks like he's been having a lot more fun this game than last game.
Yeah, it sometimes reinvigorates a driver when you move down into a lower tier. I know I've had it on other racing games in other leagues where I've been in a higher tier and I found myself overdriving because I haven't got the pace of those fast guys. You move down into a lower tier. All of a sudden, you're nearer the front. We all enjoy taking part in racing, but we're racers. We want to win. It's a lot more enjoyable when you're near the front of the field, and perhaps maybe it's just relaxing a bit more, not overdriving it, and pulling off possibly, I've got to say, the best overtake we could see all season in the first race of Australia. We've mentioned that turn 11-12 chicane a lot.
Yes.
How he managed to get it around the outside of Nexus at turn 11, giving him the inside line to turn 12. I mean, credit to Nexus to giving him room, because not many drivers, I think, would have expected to see that move coming, and if Nexus hadn't have left him enough space, it would have been a huge accident and probably took both drivers out of the race. But they're the type of moves that could end up winning you a championship.
I think it was pretty much round 2 in Australia, because they did the same in the pre-season race in Belgium. That was insane. And after so many actions gone on, and then all of a sudden it happened again in Australia, which I was watching it back, and oh my, it was just probably one of the best battles ever. They kept it clean, and I think it got to a point where Kieran was commentating all on his own. Jamie, I think his PSN died, or he couldn't connect to the party or something like that. So Kieran was left all to himself commentating on this battle. I don't know how he did it, but the enthusiasm there from both the commentator and the drivers was just second to none, really. So props to them too. And whilst we're talking about Nexus, I think we should stick with Nexus to keep into the flow. After China, P3 in the standings. He got obviously P2 in Australia, P4 in China, 12 points, and he got 8 points in Bahrain. So another one to stay high up in the standings in the majority of the races as well. And Azerbaijan as well, he hasn't done too bad. So another driver to watch out for, I must say, in the Pinnacle tier, as he finished 7th in the Pinnacle tier, as far as I'm aware. So great job from him last night as well. I wish he got involved in more battles up front, but he is getting consistent, and that's all that matters, especially if you want to fight for that title.
Yeah, a slight caveat of the Leon and Nexus Legend move that we forgot to mention is that at the end of the day, Leon had a 3-second penalty, and it didn't really matter that Nexus had been overtaken. And how many times have we seen that where drivers get stuck behind others, end up overtaking them, and the other driver just stays within 3 seconds of them to make sure they've got that position at the flag, because keeping it clean is so important, especially with strict corner cutting. It's very easy on some of these circuits to get a penalty. Australia definitely his best race of the season so far, but consistent finishers, they're going to keep you up there and thereabouts. He'll be wanting to get onto the podium again soon. Second in Australia, his best finish, and that was third out on track. So he'll be hoping for some better results in the next few races, because already Leon is... He said Precision might be one of the tiers that gets sorted out early on. I don't think Pinnacle will be too far behind it if things stay the way they are.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's been a consistent podium sitter in all the leagues he's taken part in. Majority of those have been podiums, so he's not just getting podiums in one hub. He's got podiums in other leagues as well. So Liam is going to be a threat. Nexus is going to be a threat. Ollie, I would say, has another person that has benefited from being put down from Prestige to Pinnacle. He won in Australia, a very good win from Ollie in Australia. He came second in Bahrain. He came 8th in China. And he's really catching up to Leon quite a bit in this championship. So, but I'm sure he needs to get a lot more wins if he wants to catch up to his nearest rival, because if it stays the way it is, definitely Ollie could be a title threat. He got P2 last night. I think he would have won if it wasn't for that penalty, those 5-second penalties that he got last night in the McLaren. So, yeah.
Yeah, Ollie in Australia, the first race of the season, reminded me a bit of Sebastian Vettel at his best in the Red Bull days. Just qualify on pole and just get away at the start of the race and let everyone else have their own battles behind you, and you're just focusing on a nice, comfortable drive to take the victory. He came so close to a victory last night in Azerbaijan, and that would have just kept him a bit more in touch in the championship with Leon, but he's shown how fast he is. He's going to get plenty more chances throughout this season. Finished second place in Bahrain. It wouldn't be too concerned if I was him about sixth place in China. It's not like it's a terrible result. It's just because Leon has been 4 podiums out of 4 so far. That's what's made the gap look a bit bigger. Just keep his head down and keep doing what he's doing, and he'll definitely continue to be Leon's closest challenger throughout the season. And if there's any race where Leon retires for whatever reason, Ollie needs to make sure he's there to pick up the pieces and get himself right back into this long championship battle.
I agree, and knowing him, he could be the one to pick up the pieces. So I'm looking forward to seeing Leon versus Ollie. If it keeps going like it was in Azerbaijan, then it's going to last for a long time coming as well. And another person getting close to a win in China was Praga, Leon's teammate, in the Pinnacle tier as well. We got P2 in China, and he got a few podiums here and there. He got I'm just going to see. So he got a podium in Bahrain, but he didn't score well in Australia. So I think Bahrain, was the turning point on his true form in the Pinnacle tier. So it just goes to show again, don't base your judgment on what happened in Australia. Focus on the season ahead, and you could do what Praga has done.
Yeah, I think Praga had the worst possible start to the season in Australia. It was himself and Alex, believe it was, they got together on turn 1, did a fantastic job to get round the rest of the lap. I think they were battling with each other, A, despite the fact there was a VSC out, and B, neither of them had a front wing, so they just carried on, and Praga managed to get himself back up into the points in that race. But he's been another one. If you ignore that race, he's got second, first and third, so he's kept it clean on the first lap. He's been there on the podium. Maybe a slight hint of disappointment last night, knowing that he qualified on pole position and wasn't really able to get involved with that lead battle. But the Williams team looking extremely competitive in the Pinnacle tier so far.
I'm quite gutted actually that this season it's not joint Constructors' Championship with all the 4 tiers. But in Pinnacle, Williams definitely look the favourite, don't they? But we can't count all the other teams as well. But Williams are the only team to have both of their cars in the top 5 after China. So definitely ones to watch out for. And in a team, you definitely want both drivers that can perform. And Leon and Praga are definitely examples of that.
Yeah, you want, if there's any issues with one driver, you need that other driver to be there to pick up the pieces. Teamwork between teammates is all important, so swapping positions if they're on differing strategies, helping each other point at various points in the season. I'm not sure how much team orders goes on throughout the season. I can't imagine there being any at this stage of the season, but Praga, he'll be wanting to prove himself, prove that he can keep up with Leon throughout the season. If he keeps up what he's doing, he's going to get himself involved in that battle as well. Him and Leon and Ollie looking extremely good at like most of the races so far, I've got to say. And of course, Legend as well. And last night we had a few other drivers getting involved, taking advantage of the Baku Bonanza, like the lottery that is that circuit. We saw Westy, he's done pretty well in the last couple of races as well.
I was just about to mention him actually, so you timed that quite well. So yeah, Westy had a brilliant result last night, and he's another one that's apart from Australia, he's been consistently getting 10 points or more. So yeah, I think, because again, he's one who moved up a tier, or he either moved up or stayed up to Pinnacle. And he's been doing quite well. Stayed in the top 6 in the standings, and another one to keep out of trouble. Do you think?
Yeah, he did move up a tier. He was in precision last time out and was extremely good, I'd say, at all the races. I can only think of maybe one or two out of the 8 last time where he seemed to struggle. So if he has like 4 or 5 bad races across the season, might just stop him challenging for the championship, especially seeing as he's had one already. But he's got his first podium in the pinnacle tier in China. Followed that up with a very healthy point score last time out. Did well in Bahrain, and also his teammate Coleman had a good race last time out. So the Ferrari team would definitely be happy with how they performed in pinnacle last night.
I was megally impressed with Coleman last night. He's got points, but his best finish was Australia with 6 points, and obviously he got 2 points in China, and he didn't do Bahrain, but my favourite performance from him was definitely Azerbaijan on Friday night, as he was also one of the contenders for driver of the day as well. Again, you can vote for that on the polls as well. Vote for your favourite, but he just climbed so many places on Friday night. He started 14th, finished 5th in the Ferrari, so it is definitely his best result of the season, and around Baku as well. I don't think he would be expecting that after last night.
No, he'll definitely be delighted with how he's done. 14th in qualifying, not what he'd have wanted, but you do get that free tyre choice. Ended up finishing ahead of his teammate who qualified 4th, so I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Kept it clean as well, avoiding any penalties. Never really looked like he was going to battle with Leon, Flavel and Praga. I think they were in a bit of and Dainstar, they were in a bit of a different league to everyone last night. They finished so far ahead of the rest of the pack, but to finish 1st or 5th in this case, first you have to finish. It did extremely well to not worry after that qualifying performance. Just have faith in the strategy that he has chosen, and I think after these first 4 races, those who've had like one or two good races out of the 4, they'll be pretty pleased with their start, I'd say, because it gives them something to build on across the rest of the season. He was 10th in the championship heading into last night. He will have moved up a couple of places, I'm sure. Just got to keep up the good work for him.
I can't pick out all the drivers because otherwise I would be here all day, but I know Fletcher got involved in quite a bit of instance, pretty much from, I think it was Bahrain onwards, and China and Azerbaijan as well. So again, he needs to pick up the pace a little bit. He's a one that's trying to go for ambitious moves but did not quite work out, and he either ended his own race or he ended others as well. So yeah, I'm guessing he needs to improve on his racecraft a little bit.
Yeah, even in Australia, he went for a very optimistic move on Westy. I think he just pulled out at the point of no return, otherwise that would have probably ended up in an incident. And him and Dainstar, perhaps he didn't give Dainstar just enough room, and that ended up with the two of them crashing into each other. I mentioned it earlier, you've got to know which battles to fight. It's all well and good fighting hard, but if you're losing your front wing all the time, you're never going to end up winning a race. So just try and keep it cool. I mean, Melbourne and Baku, especially out of the 4 races we've had so far, aren't necessarily the easiest circuits to overtake on. So sometimes you have got to go for that bit more of an aggressive move. But even with the races that's approaching, Spain's never been known for being the easiest circuit to overtake on. Monaco's the most important qualifying of the season. So if I was him, maybe just keep racing, keep practicing. If he's involved in other leagues, which I know that he is, try and change your racecraft slightly. And even though not everyone enjoys it, sometimes I find just going in public lobbies and trying to race against other people, because they have that unpredictability. If you're just racing in career mode against the AI, it's better than it used to be many, many years ago when I first started playing racing games, where you could basically scare the other cars into moving out of the way. But racing against humans, you get that extra element of unpredictability. He's in the 2nd highest tier in one hub. He was leading in Bahrain. He's got the pace. But if he just tidies things up, he could be a very solid driver for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I do hope he gets some points this season, more points this season, and just keeps his racecraft a little bit. And I think the final driver to mention, after having a really bad start to the season, he didn't have a finish in Australia. He hasn't attended China or Bahrain, but he went on and he got driver. He's one of the contenders for driver of the day. He did very well in Azerbaijan on Friday night. It was Danestar. He was back to the form that we seen last season, where he was challenging for points and podiums. He did pretty good last night, didn't he?
Yeah, he was involved in a battle with Praga towards the end. Bit unfortunate with what happened in Australia with Fletcher, as I've just mentioned, and then obviously not attending 2 races isn't going to be that conducive to getting involved in the championship battle. Last night will give him a lot of positives to work with. It was a good qualifying for himself. Ended up finishing in 4th place. He'll be slightly disappointed that he didn't get on the podium, but he definitely earned his Driver of the Day nomination.
Yeah, I've got to say there as well. And I think we pretty much covered most of the battles we saw last night. And obviously the last 3 races. It was great to see, and obviously the standings you will be able to see on the website as well. So make sure you check that out, and also don't forget to vote for your driver of the day. And Jamie and Kieran are your commentators for Pinnacle at Harper State on a Friday night. So make sure you check those out. And I do believe Liam was filling in for Kieran one week. I think it was in China, so thank you so much for him for filling in for that. But a great tier, I think. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season for that. And the final tier, the biggest tier in One Hub, is Prestige. Now, I got to say, a much better turnout than last season, I must say, because I think I've commentated most races last season, with your help in one of them, but this season has been a lot better. Apart from Baku Friday night, there's been some very good racing, and pretty much nearly everybody finished.
Yeah, I think they're just showing why they are at the top here in One Hub. The Prestige drivers doing extremely well across all the races. I know last night it was very close between Wayne and Louis, especially when Louis picked up that 3-second penalty, and you just saw the gap coming down. Ended up, I think it was 0.1 of a second after penalties were taken into account, so he'll be happy with that. And as well, he took the victory in China, 2nd place in Bahrain, and I don't think he attended
he didn't attend Australia, no, but I was about to speak to that. Louis did have the win in China, but he got a 5-second penalty added with an instant with him and Odem, so it got demoted to 2nd. So, but apart from that, Louis, I was expecting him to be up there near the top, but obviously he didn't start in Australia. He was one to watch in Bahrain as well. I will talk about Bahrain in a minute, because Bahrain was just a great race, and I was commentating on that race, and he basically got podium in all the races he took part in, but he was still P4 in the standings. I have a feeling he'll climb up after Onyx's retirement on Friday night, but it is not over for Louis. I don't think he could still keep going. It's one of those tiers where all the drivers are just so close. It's not going to be like last season where it gets decided early. I think it's going to be decided for a long time to come, because I think anyone in the top 6, I think, potentially could be fighting for this title, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, we've had some very close races. I remember especially the first race of the season in Melbourne, the 2 Williams and the Mercedes of Wayne were battling all throughout the race, where Alex was commentating on. Now that you mention it, I do remember Odem's reaction to when Louis collided with him in China. I think Odem's very graphically described how he felt towards Louis at that moment, so maybe that could be one to watch throughout the season. But we know these guys like Blizzard, Odems, Onyx, Louis, they've all got the pace. Paris, he's shown pace at different times, as well as Jacotex. There's some extremely fast individuals in that Prestige tier. They seem to be, on the most time, I'd say, keeping it fairly clean.
Yeah.
As well, and the good turnouts, which is always good to see, apart from last night in Azerbaijan, but I don't think anyone can really blame them for
No.
missing Azerbaijan.
I think only 9 people finished in Prestige on Friday night. Or was it 10? I can't remember. I think it was the lowest finishers, I think.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah, it was the lowest finishers, I think. Or Podium might have the same, I don't know. But, again, we're not really that surprised. I think people have taken it a bit too ambitious, but it doesn't really matter. But apart from that, Prestige has been good. China was the only tier, Prestige, to have every single driver finish the race, which was I was still quite shocked to begin with once I was finishing watching it. Wait, even every single one that finished, and I think it is all down to that fastest lap making a difference. I know if it wasn't for that fastest lap, I think a lot of people that were lower down probably would have given up.
Yeah, we do see that often where drivers have these accidents and then like quit out from the session despite being told multiple times that not supposed to do that. It's not always the easiest role to police, especially if it doesn't get caught on the stream. So props for One Hub for bringing it in, and for everyone in Prestige is doing well heading on towards the end of the race, even if things are not necessarily going their way. I know a few drivers have had struggles throughout the season. Owen, especially the precision commentator, he takes part in Prestige and things have not gone to plan for him so far, but there's some very quick drivers in there. I mean, I mentioned those earlier who are towards the head of the field, but just for example, I think it's like Paris, he's 6th in the championship at the moment. Before last night, he'd got the large majority of his points in Australia, so you are going to get the drivers who are up there at certain tracks rather than others, and again, like Paris only managing in 5th place again last night, so I think that still means more than half of his points he got at that first round of the season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people practice for the first round of the season because they have more time, obviously, to get used to it. That's probably why. But, yeah, I think standouts, I think Wayne, he got a win in Australia. He did very well in the preseason race, so he could be one to watch out for, I think, and challenge for the title. It is really close to Odems in the championship, but I think with Louis getting a good result on Friday night, I think that will good there. But I'm very impressed with Odems this season. Great improvement. Last season, I think he's had quite a lot more bottles last season, and obviously Friday night is where we saw his true nature has come through. He had a bottle, but apart from that, all the other races he took part in, he has won. Bahrain, where he won legitimately, and to be honest, there was a battle in Bahrain which happened pretty much for the entire race between Louis and Modems, and my voice was almost going due to that battle. It was just insane. Literally anyone could have won it. Odems was banging on that it was his favourite track, and I think that really helped out for him. But I think Louis will be happy with that P2 result in Bahrain as well, after having such a fun battle with Odems as well and keeping it clean. I think we'll see a lot of battles for Louis versus Odems during the season.
Yeah, one of the things I've got to say about Odems, I know we keep calling him the bottler. Like maybe if he stopped spinning at various points when he's in good positions, we'd stop calling him the bottler. But we can't control that much. But he does get involved in some absolutely fantastic battles out on track, time after time. Again, he's extremely clever at knowing where to put the car, where he's defending, and when he's attacking when it comes to getting cutbacks and various things. Didn't take part in Australia, retired last night in Azerbaijan, but every time he's finished so far this season in the 2 main season races, he's won. Yeah.
And if I predicted he was going to be he was leading the championship after China, I would have pinched myself. If I said that at the beginning of the season, I'll be like, no. But you know, I've seen Odems in other games, other leagues in this game. I can tell you, he's been a massive improvement in terms of his race style. I mean, he's one of those other drivers as well as Louis, where he's found more of a form on his handling to this game than the previous game.
Yeah, we mentioned that some of the drivers have struggled with transition for F1 2018 to 19. I don't think there's any bigger person in the world of F1 esports is struggling than that than Brandon Lee, the man who's won away with the past F1 esports series, just doesn't seem to be the same on F1 2019. Odems has been the opposite, almost. He just looks so at home on this game. Don't know whether he's putting more work in or whatever he's doing, whether he just feels like the handling model on this game suits him better than it did before. But when you consider he was leading the championship after 3 races, after not even taking part in the first one.
Wow.
But if I was some of the other drivers in that tier, I'd be getting a bit worried about the fact that he was able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, even the China race, he had a lot of fun battling with Louis as well, and it was great to see him in his element, and yeah, I think definitely one to watch. I'll speak about other drivers. I spoke about Wayne, I spoke about Odems, and I spoke about Louis. One other person to mention, Blizzard. We spoke about Paris and Jacotex earlier, but Blizzard, he was champion last season. I think he hasn't been challenging for wins at late, but due to Louis' penalty, he's able to get a Red Bull 1-2 in China, and he was able to go from lower down the grid in Bahrain to get 10 points in Bahrain. So he's not losing form yet. He's improving, but he's not gone back to winning ways just yet. But I think it's going to be some time. But I'm sure Red Bull are going to be a formidable force in the prestige tier this season once again.
Yeah, season 13, when One Hub tried the combined constructors championships, it was great to watch. It was a bit of a nightmare to try and work out in the middle of a live stream from the results on the previous tier whether the championship had been sorted out or not. But
yeah.
Red Bull were dominant in that. They're looking very good again. I think the thing is with Blizzard, he's apart from China, he's not really put together any other brilliant weekends. In Australia, he qualified well, found himself dropping down the field. Bahrain was only able to qualify 16th, didn't finish in Azerbaijan. But the Red Bull, they could definitely show some good teamwork, and they have done so far this season. And that is very important, having a good relationship with your teammate. We know they're both part of the Visceral Racing stable.
Yes.
They've shown some good work together. Williams in Australia, I remember them battling extremely hard with each other, and that allowed Wayne to catch up. In the end, there was a bit of contact, and Wayne took the lead of the race and wasn't seen again. So sometimes as teammates, you've got to be a bit more careful when you're battling with each other. I'm sure they learned from that incident, the Williams team, but they won't be able to afford too many of that if they want to keep up with Red Bull in that constructors.
I agree, to be honest. So massive well done to the top 6 for keeping it there, and we may see Jacotex out there go up a championship fight if any of those guys make a mistake. So I think those were the 6-7 drivers we'll point out for today. And was there any other moments that you saw in Prestige that it'll be good to point out? Maybe some of the drivers haven't stepped up to the mark, maybe that you were expecting to do well?
I think, as we mentioned, Owen, he said last night could be his last race in league racing, and I hope it's not, because he's definitely got talent. He's just found it a bit hard at the moment. I know Samster had a few spins in the first race of the season, but recovered to get some decent points.
Yeah.
I think Lakita as well. He's things haven't exactly gone to plan for him as well. So I think there's a few in Prestige who know they can do better and will be slightly disappointed, but they can't get their head down too much. Just need to keep things going. Said it so many times now. It's 21 races. It's an extremely long season. I think we get all the way to around Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Before this season ends, a lot can change between then and now.
I think we've seen championships go down to the wire and absolutely change. But we haven't seen that much in Prestige due to that. But I think we will probably see in Prestige pretty much for the whole season. So looking forward to it. And I hope the ones that are lower down the field can improve a little bit in the next few rounds as well. And I think we probably might see some new drivers in Prestige in the next 4 races. So we will mention that in the next talk show, and hopefully see how they cope with obviously people that have been there for absolutely ages. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the prestige tier. I think we're going to have to leave it there for the talk show today. We talked about all the tiers today. Don't forget, prestige will be at 9:30 on a Friday night with Alex Ilya as your commentator, and I must say, he's the only solo commentator, and he does a really great job. I don't know how he keeps up, but he does great. So massive shout out to him. He's done awesome, and well done to all the drivers as well. And thanks to Luke for joining me for the talk show this week. It has been awesome, and we will see you in about 4 weeks' time when we go through the next 4 rounds, which will be Spain, Monaco, I can't remember what else, Canada and France. So those are the 4 tracks coming up next. 4 really good tracks. Monaco really hard. Canada, a lot of street circuits, I must say, coming up as well. And obviously we also have Spain and France as well, which are not street circuits, but produce some very good racing. So we will see you next time for another talk show.